You wake up and D'Angelo Russell's on the cover of Slam magazine. The Nets are on ESPN, every social media outlet, every big publication. And it's just, it seems like everything that they've been working on over the past couple of years is finally coming to fruition. And, they're getting some love for it. You look at a game like last night, and, I understand for Nets fans, those of you that fell asleep, those of you that didn't watch, whatever it might be, turned it off. It's a love-hate relationship with this team right now. It's just that, they're so temperamental in the games throughout the season. You look at last night, they're down by 28 with a minute left in the third quarter. They start the fourth, down 25. They just didn't have the heart. It didn't look like they had the effort. They didn't have anything. Dre Nozo, Kazar Allen, I see you guys. What's up, fellas? Garrett Patton, good to see you guys. You look at a game like this, Chris Mulholland, Stu BKNY, my guys. You look at a game like that, and I was tweeting it out in the late in the third quarter when they were getting killed, and I'll be the first to admit it. I jumped the gun early because it seemed like these must-win games, getting blown out in these must-win games, down 28 against the Kings, going for their fourth straight loss. T-Rex, happy birthday, brother. I see you. And, it makes me feel like that week where they lost to Washington, where they lost to Charlotte, where they lost to Miami, and they were all kind of blowouts. They weren't really close games. Kind of needed to win those games for the standings. And like I said last night, it kind of looked like they gave up. It kind of looked like they gave up. And Kenny Atkinson became desperate. So he puts Rondae Hollis-Jefferson into the game, puts Treveon Graham into the game, puts Jared Dudley into the game. It would be easy to say that, he was waving the white towel. I personally thought he was just looking for any possible way to get some heart out of his guys, to at least go down fighting. Have some heart, show a little bit of hustle out there. Ronnie Love, Willie Byrne, what's up? It was just anything. And Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, before you know it, he gives them a couple buckets, comes up with a couple stops, forces turnovers, just does the little things. He's diving at the 50-50 balls late in games and late in that game anyway. And you see the Nets start picking up the energy, and it's a 19-4 run suddenly. 17 with 7 minutes left. They're down by 10. He made the most of his opportunity. He had 4 out of the last 6 before last night. And he was ready to go. So he handed the keys over to D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell scored 16 straight in the late run, 27 in the fourth, and a career-high 44 on the night. Russell goes on this crazy run where he scores 16 straight, like I mentioned, in the Nets. Then within one, he kicks out to Jared Dudley. Jared Dudley hits a 3 to take a 2-point lead, 121-119. Nets erase a 28-point deficit. I can't emphasize enough what Rondae Hollis-Jefferson did for this team last night. And it wasn't just what he did on the offensive end late in the game. He forced a turnover. The Kings had a ball with, I think, 27 seconds left. They had a chance to win the game. Rondae forced a turnover, got it back for the Nets, and the rest from there. I mean, they denied D'Angelo the full way. He told Rondae to go. Rondae went. He finished the bucket, and it was like poetic. It was poetic. In the biggest game in Rondae Hollis-Jefferson's career, despite the up and downs, the biggest game D'Angelo Russell's young career, biggest game in Kenny Atkinson, all these guys. They mount the biggest comeback in franchise history entering the fourth quarter. I mean, you can't measure heart, and players like Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, you look at their circumstances this year. He's a restricted free agent. You could tell he's kind of not fitting in with the system this year. Hasn't been getting consistent minutes in and out of the lineup, in and out of the rotation. But he's ready to go. And D'Angelo Russell says after the game, he's the heart and soul of this team. And I think that people got to understand how important Rondae is, despite him not playing much or him not playing his best ball. These guys really do rally behind him You could tell with the post-game celebrations with Michael Grady and pouring the water. So you see that love from D'Lo, and I mean, I got to touch on D'Lo. I mean, talking about somebody who scored 27 in the fourth last night, basically single-handedly brought them back in that game and showed why he's worthy of the big bucks next year, why he's the all-star that the Nets have sought for so long. Yeah. Kaboom. I was built for this. I mean, it's so D'Angelo Russell. He's got his swagger back. He's got his confidence back. And, I can't emphasize this enough. You talk about adversity, a guy that was in Los Angeles and just had was really dealt a crappy hand, kind of like Sean Marks and Kenny Atkinson. He walked right into Kobe's farewell tour, obviously got into that incident with Nick Young and Iggy Azalea, and, then it's not just the LA Times that's following you after that. It's the Hollywood tabloids, because you're involved in stuff that you just don't need, distractions that you don't need. And on your way out of getting traded, you're told you're not a leader. So he came to Brooklyn and he said right away, I want to buy in. I want to change my rep. I want to I got a clean slate. I'm ready to buy in. And I think people, now that he's doing well, it's like, oh, well, he was traded here right away and things went smoothly for him the second he went to Brooklyn. Like, no, he came here last season and he missed most of the season due to his knee injuries, and that plagued his whole season. And you look back early in this season and you talk about mental tests and how D'Angelo Russell has grown, his maturity and as a leader and just understanding his role, checking his ego at the door, fitting in with this culture and doing what Kenny Atkinson and Sean Marks want him to do. And he's getting benched in the fourth quarter early in games this year. Karis LeVert was playing well, Spencer Dinwiddie was playing well, and it seemed like, D'Angelo was kind of that odd man out every time, he made a mistake or things like that. And, you could say Atkinson was giving him a mental test. You could say that Atkinson's going to hold him to higher standards because he does know what D'Angelo is capable of. But the fact of the matter is that, when he first came to Brooklyn, things weren't that easy. His first season here wasn't that easy. Early this year, it wasn't that easy until, those guys got hurt. D'Angelo stepped in and he did what he had to do. He's an all-star. He's averaging 21 points and 7 assists a game. Easily, in the conversation for the most improved player. And look where the Nets are. They're in the playoffs. They're the 7th seed. They're a half game behind the 6th seed. They have 3 games up on the 9th seed. When you wake up, it's late March. The Nets have less than 10 games left. The playoffs are right around the corner. And D'Angelo Russell's on the cover of Slam magazine saying it's all a dream. It's just... Look, when Sean Marks made this trade for D'Angelo Russell, he knew he was getting a character guy. I mean, he didn't just make this trade because he was talented. He knew that he could fit in with the culture. It was just a matter of, giving this kid a second chance, as they have done with several people on this team. You look at Joe Harris, Spencer Dinwiddie, Okafor. I mean, just so many names that they've tried with the second chances, this league. And I said this on my last Periscope. I don't know if people were around. It was kind of late. It was a late story, but I'm going to say it again. Just from a personal experience. Matt in Astoria, what's up, brother? Always in here. With D'Angelo, just for myself, like, to understand that there's a player and there's the human side to these players, and I went, after I posted that thing about my father being sick and my house being under foreclosure and things like that, it was around the time that the All-Star ballot had come out, and I congratulated him, shook his hand on making the All-Star team, and he said to me, Pooch, I want to let you know I'm praying for your father, I'm praying for your family, on some real stuff. And I'd say that story because that's what it's all about. Like, you want to talk about character, you want to talk about somebody being labeled, having their rep tarnished at 19 years old. Come on, if we all had a camera on us following us around when we were 19 years old, we'd all be in some interesting places right now. So, I bring up this story because, again, I want to show you guys that there's a difference between the person and the player. They're real. I wouldn't just make anything like that up. You know, this is something that he did right from the bottom of his heart. He thought of my situation. You know, he went out of his way to say it. And, you know, this is kind of why I feel so strongly about, like, the Russell Westbrook incident and things like that, because people have such a hard time, I think, differentiating that, you know, and understanding that these are humans at the end of the day, a man just like you and I. So I commend D'Angelo Russell. I think he has earned everything he's going to get this summer. And for years after that, I don't know what it can be. I know a lot of you guys ask me what my price range is with him, but I think that he has done everything you could have possibly asked him to do and then some. So, on that note, guys, my spiel is done here. You guys ask your questions, anything you want to know, more than glad to answer them. Obviously, you know, the Nets shouldn't be putting themselves into these situations where they're down by 28 entering the fourth quarter. You know, you look at the Clippers game, you look at the OKC game, they're up by more than 17 points in each of those games, and they blew the leads. So, you know, look, this team is far from perfect, but they're finding ways to do it. You know, you can't complain how they're doing it. And, you know, again, last night was frustrating for 3 quarters, but